So virtualization is actually the mainstay of cloud computing. Why? Because it really abstracts the applications from the underlying hardware, and hence, results in greater utilization and better agility. You can put any workload on any server, and that's the advent of cloud computing in the first place. And it also supports multi-tenancy. This is a coalition between VMware, Cisco, and EMC, and this aims at bringing together pre-tested, pre-validated solutions which allow customers to deploy virtualization at scale in the data center, have a common perspective of virtualization across all these building blocks, which is servers, storage, and the network components that go underneath, and also aim at providing a common window of provisioning. And from a customer perspective, things get sweeter because they get a common window of support whenever there is a problem with this, I would say, integrated, pre-tested infrastructure building block, which is cloud ready. The journey to the cloud starts from within an organization's data center. So I think the three core building blocks from a cloud perspective are consolidation, virtualization, and automation. I think cloud, as perceived by some of the customers, is something very complex, but believe me, it is all about going through these three phases and really building an agile data center that has concepts of consolidation, virtualization, and automation thrown in. So from a private cloud perspective, it offers all the benefits of agility and balanced workloads cut across the data center for the customers, while still maintaining the control within the organization and not letting it go outside to a service provider or something, right? So that's the advantage of private clouds. And from an infrastructure perspective, the vendors, the solutions are ready today. They all support deployment of virtualization at scale. The biggest risk as perceived by the customers was around security, and was also around whether they are able to deploy virtualization at scale. So let me go step back a little bit. Many of the customers, have been deploying virtualization, but they have been deploying virtualization at a very nascent stage for test and development environments, and not really scaled up beyond that test and measuring or test and development environment. Why did they do so? Because they were not able to apply the same set of organization-wide security policies, or I would say network policies, up to a virtual machine level. Why? Because virtual machine did not have the physical network interface cards or host bus adapters to connect it to the underlying infrastructure. So the real challenge that they saw is applying the same set of policies, the same set of visibility and monitoring capabilities up to a virtual machine level in the case of a virtualized environment. Infrastructure as a service is actually under the bigger umbrella of managed services that perhaps all service providers today in India are talking about. And infrastructure as a service is not a new concept. People have been offering it in one form or the other, but I think the advent of cloud computing and the advent of virtualization and the ability to deploy at scale has really ramped up the uptake of these kind of new business models, I would say. Add to the fact that customers are now aware about these new consumption-based models which they can leverage upon. Okay, so infrastructure as a service is something which is in its nascent phases. Almost every service provider today in India has a play around that. At the same time, some of the service providers have even launched or test marketed their services. From the data center perspective, cloud, the network plays a big role in cloud-ready infrastructure in the data center. Let me take an example. The advent of technologies like unified fabric that allows any workload to be put on any server any time of the day, and hence allowing multi-tenancy aspects to come in. Very, very important for cloud computing. Similarly, as I mentioned, the atomic unit in a data center from a compute perspective is a virtual machine, and virtual machines need to be applied with the same set of security policies and networking policies the way a physical machine should be in a non-virtualized environment. So from a data center perspective, very clearly, any workload on any server, any time of the day, multi-tenancy, and of course bringing and extending all the policy framework and security framework all the way up to a virtual machine. These are two key aspects from a data center perspective. And the second aspect is around how those services are delivered to an end user. The end user could be a retail user like you and me. The end user could be a corporate company who is outsourced or who is using the cloud services provided by the service provider. So the connectivity or the way service is delivered to that, and ensuring quality of service and ensuring security framework is intact, as the services get delivered. This is another role of the network, that the network plays. To the enterprises who are very concerned about the security aspects and more so on the control of the entire piece, they are the first set of uptakers for the private cloud concepts, and it gives them exactly the same agility and the same multi-tenancy capabilities and the same chargeback capabilities as that of a public cloud, just that the equipment which is built on the three concepts of consolidation, virtualization, and automation are hosted within the enterprise's own data center, right? Whereas from a public cloud perspective, the initial set of people who have been uptaking those services are people from the SMB and the mid-market side of things, who do not mind the control to be with the service provider as long as their service level agreements and service level requirements are met.